Alright, well, this definitely feels weird because obviously I haven't done this in a very long time. So now that I officially know the due date of when I'm actually going to be leaving, I figured what better way to end off 2019 monthly favorites for November and December to end by, of course, wrapping this all up in my house. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hello there everyone, my name is Kirsten. So of course I am back, at least for now, into my old household until I move into my new one at the very moment. By the time I upload this video, I have moved into my new house by now. It does feel relatively awkward simply because I haven't really filmed anything until November actually, and I'm getting pretty close to the end of March, so it does feel relatively weird that I'm just going through like a brain fog at the moment, or excuse me, not a brain fog, like a weird random thought process for some weird reason. But anyway, so what better way for me to begin ending my 2019 November and December monthly favorites video by, of course, filming into my old house. Please do excuse the random nature of the echoing going on in this room. It is pretty empty, so that explains why it kind of sounds this way, the way it does right now. So I do apologize for that, but hopefully you can sit to the end of this video. So anyway, with that introduction being out of the way, let's go ahead and finish off my November and December monthly favorites for 2019. So to begin with some of the movies and TV shows that I had a chance to watch, I figured I would go ahead and start with the movies and TV shows that I started watching in November, and then of course ending that off with some interesting movies and TV shows that I had a chance to watch in December. So to begin with the movies and TV shows that I had a chance to watch in November, there was definitely quite a few handful of movies and TV shows that I had a chance to watch during that month. So I'm gonna go ahead and begin with the TV shows first, obviously. So of course, as you guys know from my previous monthly favorites video, I was in the middle of watching The Vampire Diaries, and I finally got to watch the 8th and final season, which was a pretty interesting little ending, I thought that was. So I thought it was very interesting, not gonna lie. I started watching the 3rd season of Scream, which I thought was also very interesting because it involved new characters for some weird reason, but other than that, I thought it was pretty much good for the most part. I also ended up watching season 3 of Riverdale, and I feel like I haven't watched Riverdale in such a long time, and I finally caught up with it, so I'm really pleased about that anyway. I started watching Baki season 2, which I was pretty impressed with. I'm not gonna lie in that department. Also, I had a chance to watch a brand new TV show called Love, Death, Robots. It's kind of like a weird mixture and collection of different various art styles of animation and all their unique creative stories, which is something I haven't seen in a very long time, and especially with the TV show, so I find that to be relatively unique, I'm not gonna lie, but other than that, I thought it was pretty good for the most part. I started watching The Hustle with, I think, what's her face, Rebel Wilson that played in that movie. I thought it was okay. I just wasn't a huge fan. Usually I like movies with Rebel Wilson that plays in these kind of movies because I always think she's so relatively funny. But this one I thought it was meh. I didn't care for it too much. But in other films, she's usually really funny and very great for the most part. But that's the only movie that she played in that I thought was relatively okay. I also started watching The Waterboy with Adam Sandler. It's a really older film, and it never fails to amaze me in a way that I feel like it's really laughable because, I don't know, just old school Adam Sandler films, I always thought they were relatively funny. And Waterboy especially is a classic and my favorite. I grew up watching that movie so much and I always think it's funny every single time. I started to watch Spring Breakers for the first time with, I believe Selena Gomez plays in that film, along with James Franco that played in that movie as well. I heard a lot about Spring Breakers back in 2011 about like how, you know, strange and weird it was, and in a way it kind of is, but it was the type of movie where I genuinely thought I expected it to be. It was very weird, very over-sexual in some case scenarios. Other than that, I thought it was pretty interesting, even though it was kind of weird and overly sexualized and that kind of thing, but overall I enjoyed it. I also started watching Coraline, which I heard a lot about in the alternative community, and I had a chance to watch it, and by far I thought it was just as interesting as The Nightmare Before Christmas, if not a bit more stranger, but in a really good, unique way. At least that was my take on it. I also started watching Alien for the first time, the very first Alien movie that ended up coming out in like 1970s, somewhere in there. And I didn't think I was gonna be able to like it, but I ended up falling in love with that movie so much, and I cannot wait until I can be able to watch more Alien movies series in the future, because I thought it was pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. And then of course, last but most definitely not least, now that we're still on the subject of horror films, now this one I heard a lot about. I heard it was a very controversial piece of film that anybody's ever watched in the horror community. That movie is, of course, a Serbian film. Now, I ended up watching this movie out of curiosity. I ended up finding it on YouTube somewhere. Surprisingly enough, it was on YouTube somewhere. And unfortunately, it wasn't in English subtitles. I think it was like in Italian subtitles, which I also could not understand. I could not understand what they were talking about in this film in particular, but I ended up watching this movie out of curiosity, and I could definitely see why people would think that this movie is relatively disturbing. And in case if you guys don't know what a Serbian film is, this movie is about a retired porn star, and he decided to go back into the filming business so he could work on another project, only to find out that he was participating in snuff films. If you guys want me to make a whole completely different video about it, I would love to get into more details about it, but the only thing I can say about this film is that I can understand fully well why people would think this film is so disturbing. I mean, I couldn't even speak for like 3 days because I thought it was that uncomfortable and that graphic. So lots of disturbing things in the film, but there were definitely a few that turned me off completely, which I will talk about in a separate video if you guys want me to cover that. But anyway, so that is it for my November monthly favorites in terms of movies and TV shows. So now I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the December one. For my December favorites for movies and TV shows, obviously, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the TV shows. The first one I wanted to go ahead and mention is, of course, Supernatural season 14. Obviously, I'm always impressed with Supernatural TV shows, and I feel like I could never get tired of them regardless. They're just so cool and so unique in its own little way. So yeah, I really love Supernatural. I mean, I always think the stories are always so interesting. I could never get tired of them. I also got to watch 2-sentence horror stories. It's definitely nothing compared to American Horror Story, but in a way, it did present like really unique and creepy stories, so I thought that was pretty cool. I also started watching The Witcher, which I heard a lot of hype about. Maybe I'm the only one that doesn't really fully get it, but watching the full season forward, I just couldn't understand what was really going on with the TV show. I mean, I do know that it's based on the video game. Maybe it's because I don't know much about the video game, but I felt kind of confused just being able to watch the TV show. Maybe one of these days I'll get a chance to play the video game and maybe understand that a little bit. At least that's how I viewed The Witcher. I assumed it started, it was based on the video game, but I'll have to dive into it a little bit more. And I think it's also based off of a book, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll definitely have to look into that more and maybe rewatch it so I can understand what's going on. But anyway, and of course the last TV show, but most definitely not least, I had a chance to watch Peaky Blinders, which of course I love watching Sons of Anarchy in the past, and the fact that I got to watch the British version of that I thought was kind of cool. So now that that's out of the way, I figured I would go ahead and start off with the movies, or end it with the movies. So I ended up watching The Do-Over with Adam Sandler. It wasn't quite as I was expecting it to be, but overall very raunchy and just, I don't know, I didn't really find that funny, but I ended up watching it anyway because I was just bored out of my mind, basically. So that was the reason for me to watch it. But since we're still on the subject of comedies, I watched National Napoleon's Christmas Vacation, and that movie was so funny. I ended up cracking up so hard. I haven't seen that movie in a very long time, and I could never grow tired of cracking up when I watch that movie, that's for sure. I think the movie itself is so damn funny. I could never get tired of it. I ended up watching Bad Boys 1 and 2, and this one I thought cracked me up so hard because it's just action-packed and funny in its own little unique way, you know? I just love comedies that are just action-packed for some weird reason. There's just something about them that just you just never grow tired out of watching these type of films, you know what I mean? So I was curious about it for a long time and ended up watching it. And I would say that I wouldn't mind watching either one of these films again in the future. I also ended up watching Step Brothers, and Step Brothers is pretty funny for the most part. And of course, last but most definitely not least, it is something I had a chance to rewatch in the past actually, and I believe the sequel came out not that long ago, and I'll have to watch that sometime very soon. But I ended up watching Zombieland. And Zombieland, I feel like I could never get tired out of. I feel like horror comedies are just really hard to come by. There's just so many moments in the film where I end up cracking up so hard. I mean, I ended up watching a good amount of comedies during the month of December, so yeah, I mean, can't go wrong with comedies, right? They always make you laugh. Laughter is the best medicine you can offer, right? Anyway, so that has been my favorite movies and TV shows for November and December. So for the whole little events section of this video, obviously not a whole lot has happened. In December, I was mainly focused on trying to get my house sold, so not much else has happened during the month of December. But in November, I was still participating in some acting classes, and I basically ended up signing up for a non-beginners class and a voice acting class, which I thought was really fun. And during the month of November, I ended up meeting a few friends in my acting class, and one of my friends ended up having, her birthday was in November, sometime in mid-November, and so she invited us all to basically go out for her birthday over in a Mediterranean restaurant. And the restaurant itself was very classic, and it made me feel like I was in a New York styled restaurant. It was just really pricey, very high-end, but it was really interesting with good drinks and good food. And obviously I didn't really get to eat that much or drink that much. Well, actually I did get a few drinks here and there, but I mainly had a snack simply because it was late during the day and I figured I would stay up late at night to celebrate her birthday, so can't go wrong there. Other than that, not much else has happened during November and December events, just focusing on trying to get my house sold during that time, so I guess that's that. So for the whole little food and snacks section of this video, definitely in November and December, there was definitely quite a few treats, veganized treats that I ended up trying out for November and December. So to begin with what I tried in November, I ended up trying out Nanamu's strawberry cheesecake, which I thought was really good. And I also ended up trying out Tivana's strawberry apple green tea, which I thought was pretty good. And usually with Tivana, you can't go wrong in that department. I also got to try out a mango green tea, which I thought was pretty good. I went over to this place called Pho Saigon, I think the restaurant is called. I ended up trying out a Vietnamese style noodle, and I thought it was really good, and I thought it was pretty enjoyable. Not gonna lie, you cannot go wrong with like soup style noodles or anything like that. I also got to try out the Beyond Meat's ground beef. Obviously I tried out their plant-based burgers and sausages in the past, and I was pleased by how much it tasted so amazing. And then when I got to try out the vegan ground beef, and overall I was really surprised by how tasty it was, and I ended up making it into a veganized sausage gravy a few times. Making this ground beef texture into the sausage gravy, it reminded me so much of how I remembered sausage gravy when I grew up loving this stuff as a kid. And I gotta say, I'm really happy that this was eventually made into something better. So it definitely made me so happy. I also got to try out the Coffee Mates Almond Milk Hazelnut Creamer, and I thought it was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was really tasty. I also got to try out the Gardeins vegan turkey cutlets, and it definitely reminded me of how I used to remember eating turkey when I was a kid growing up, and I gotta say, I'm always impressed with Gardein products. They're pretty good. I also got to try out the Earth Balance cheese squares, which I thought were pretty good. Not gonna lie, I thought it was really good. I also got a chance to try out Cedar Lane's plant protein salads and no tuna salad sandwich, which I think tasted kind of similar to tuna salad sandwich, so not too bad. I mean, I wouldn't mind buying it again. I also got to try out Light Life's plant-based burgers, which I thought were pretty good. And also, because it was like around Thanksgiving time, I had a chance to try out a couple of veganized Thanksgiving related dishes. So the first one I want to go ahead and mention is, of course, a vegan stuffing, and I thought it was pretty tasty, I'm not gonna lie. And of course, last but most definitely not least, I ended up making a veganized version of pecan pie, and it reminded me of how I used to remember eating pecan pie when I was growing up. It was pretty good, and my folks liked it when I made it, and can't go wrong, right? So that has basically been all of my favorite foods that I had a chance to try out for November. So now I'm gonna go ahead and move on to December favorite foods. So for December favorite foods and snacks that I had a chance to try out during that month, of course, I got to try out the Sorbabes Raspberry, which is very good. It's like a berry flavored sorbet with like chocolate chunks in them, which I thought was pretty good. I mean, it's been a while since I tried out sorbets, and I thought it was pretty tasty. I also had a chance to try out Light Life's plant-based bratwurst, which I thought was pretty interesting. I also had a chance to try out another Cedar Lane's veganized salad things, and it was basically their plant proteins no egg salad sandwich, and I thought it was pretty good. I also had a chance to try out the Tattooed Chef's acai bowl. I've never tried out a smoothie bowl before, and I would say I'll have to make that sometime in the future, but their acai bowls were actually not too bad. I really liked them. I also had a chance to try out another Cedar Lane plant-based food, and that was basically their panini Alfredo, veganized Alfredo obviously, and I thought it was pretty good, not too bad. And of course, last but most definitely not least, for Christmas I ended up making a shepherd's pie for the very first time, and of course I had a chance to veganize it, and overall I'd say it's not too bad. I would say I was very pleased with all the plant-based products that I had a chance to try out for the month of November and December. So let's go ahead and move on to the next section of this video. So for the whole little podcast slash music section of this video, obviously I get into horror a lot, and I ended up re-listening to some of Mr. Creepypasta's story time, and I would say that pretty much entertained me for a while, so I'd say that's pretty much it. And I know, very quick, right? I mean, not much else has happened during November and December. So with that being out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next section of this video. So for the final section of this video, I figured I would bring up like some random items, materials, apps, that kind of thing. One app in particular that I have really been getting into lately is called FitOn. It's basically like a little workout program thing that you have on your phone. And I like the fact that it's pretty cheap and you don't have to worry about paying it monthly if you don't have to. I mainly use it to try out different workouts, and it definitely kept me on my feet for as long as it did. So it definitely helped me out in so many ways. So I'd say from here on there, I would say that's been my favorites for November and December. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. So that is basically pretty much everything for my monthly favorites for November and December. So I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to share with you guys. So if you did, be sure to sucker punch that like button down below. Comment down below as well. Let me know what has been your favorites for November and December of 2019. And of course, if you're completely new to this channel and if you haven't done so already, please do dedicate the time and effort to subscribe to my lovely channel, join my little army of darkness, and of course, if you hit that notification button, you will be updated with brand new videos every single Friday. And of course, if you guys are interested in following me outside of YouTube, all of my social medias will be listed in the description box right down below if you are indeed interested in checking them out yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a completely chill week, an awesome day or night, and I will talk to you all soon in the very next video. So until then, stay completely dark and so fucking brutal and awesome, my friends. Take care. Bye for now.